Hey guys, so let's talk about data pages. Before we talk about data pages, what are the disadvantages of your clipboard pages? The disadvantage is there is no reusability, right? So just in case if you consider something like a drop down for countries, states and cities. So if I'm the first user, I'm trying to access the drop down for countries. Activity is going to run or a report definition is going to run, hit the DB. Okay, so it's something like a piece of code. Just assume it's an activity. It's going to hit the database. It's going to fetch the data and place it on some clipboard page. Let's name it as countries. So this is done. I'm done. I logged out. Now another user logged into the system. Maybe I'm from India, there's somebody else, a customer from US, somebody else from UK, somebody else from Singapore, Egypt, and various other countries. So they're clients from different countries. Everybody, when they try to access this drop down for countries, states, and cities, this repeatedly happens. Activity, then database, then clipboard page. So this is an unnecessary action because the drop down remains the same wherever you are from, right? The drop down for list of countries is same whether you're hitting my application from India or US or UK or whatever country it is. Then why do you want to trigger the code n number of times? Why do you want to make a round trip to the database? And why do you want to create multiple pages on the clipboard for the same data? Just redundant. You're just wasting memory. So we want reusability. Okay, we want this page to be reusable for all the customers because the data is common. Also, just take another example. Maybe there is a screen where you display all the company's policies. Okay, some policies you want to display. It's quite common for every customer. It's same for every customer. Then why do you want to hit the DB, get the data, and display it every single user logs into your system? Why don't you fetch it only once and make it reusable? Or let's take something like maybe like you're trying to access Paytm. Okay, Paytm, a mobile recharge application. It displays a screen with a list of payment options like payment options the with the list of all the recharge offers, something like for 4G data, for something like 100 calls, some cost. For every single network, it displays a table with all the options like this much data, this many SMS, this many calls, and this is the cost, and this is the validity. So it's common for every customer, right? Whether you use Airtel or Vodafone or whatever network you use, when you log in, it's going to display you a chart holding all the information of all the recharge offers of all different networks. It's quite common. Then why do you want to hit the DB for every single customer, get the data, put it on the clipboard and display it? Why don't you just make it reusable? Okay, so with that concept, you have something called as data pages. So they are a solution to this problem. They are reusable. They avoid multiple triggering of rules like activity or report definition or workflows, whatever it is. Then you need not hit the database multiple times. Let it be database or let it be an external system. Maybe you want to fetch the data, you get it from an external system. Every time you make a SOAP call. So why do you want to do that again and again? So even that can be, avoided using this data pages. So no wastage of memory, no multiple DB hits or hits to the external system. No need to trigger the rules multiple times for every single customer. So you are going to trigger the rule only once, hit the database or external system only once, capture the data and just reuse it for every single customer who is going to use your application. So those are called as data pages. In lower versions of Pega, actually in Pega 4, 5 and 6, they were called as declare pages. Lower versions, they were called declare pages. Later in Pega 7, they were renamed and a lot of new features came into the picture and they are now called as data pages. Earlier, they were called as declare pages. And they always have a prefix like this. They have something like D underscore or declare underscore. So if you have a page called as countries, then it will be something like this, D underscore countries. Or if it is something like employees, something like this. Same is applicable on the other side, declare underscore employees. So this is how you distinguish between a clipboard page and a data page. If you see the prefix, you should understand that this is a data page. Now, again, coming to the structure, just like your normal, properties, this also has a structure. It can be a page or a page list. So page means you're just fetching only one single record of data, only one record of data. Then you say it's a page. Page list, multiple records of data. So if you're fetching one single employee data, it's a page. If you're fetching all the employees information, it's a page list. So if you pass the employee ID and you get the employee details, go for page. If you're just passing, something like technology or company, or you just say select star from without any where clause, then you say it's a page list because I'm getting records of data, multiple rows of data. Then you say page list. So it can be a page or a page list based on your requirement. Go for it. Now, here comes the life and scope. Life of a data page. So this can be stored at node level, requester level, and thread level. There are three levels where you can make it reusable. Node level means the content on this page can be reused by every single requester in that specific server node or in the specific node instance. Suppose this is one production node, and I have 1,000 users accessing the application. Then for all the 1,000 users, this page is reusable. Like if it's a page containing, recharge offers. Okay, all my 1,000 customers can reuse the page as a part of processing the work object, and they can progress on the case. So node means reusable by every single requester, nothing but every single user. So when you use node level pages, something like recharge offers or drop down for countries, states and cities, all such things you can go for a node level data page because the data is reusable. It's common for everyone. It doesn't differ, right? It's common wherever you are, whoever you are. I show the same data. So then you can go for a node level data page. Coming to requester level data page. Not all the times data is reusable by everyone, right? Suppose if this is a data page which holds data about my transaction history or about my order history in Amazon or about my recharge history in Paytm. So in that case, the data is not reusable by every single customer, right? So in that case, what you have to do is you can't put it at a node level. You have to put it at requester level because this is only for me, not for everybody else. Okay. Then you have to place the data page as a requester level data page because this is only for the current requester. So I logged in, I created one case. There my order history was displaying. Done. Now I created another case. Again, the order history has to display. So if I create 10 cases, for all the 10 cases, if I'm using the order history, okay, then the page can be created as reusable for requester level because within my session it is reusable. So my order history is not useful for somebody else, right? So such things you put it as requester level. Like take for example, you just logged into a bank account, maybe like a banking website, maybe HSBC, Citibank, whatever website, and you just want to look at the transaction history. So transaction history is a page or a page list holding all the data. Is it reusable for other requesters? No, it's only for your session, your account number, your card number, right? It's only for your account. So such things can be created at requester level. Now I can make n number of transactions after logging into my bank account, and for all the transactions, if my order history is reused or you have to be used, then you can just reuse it by creating a data page for it. Now I log off, the page is gone, it's deleted. Now again I come back and log in after an hour. Again a fresh copy of the page is created. Again I made like 5 or 10 transactions. The page is reused. Again I logged off. The page is deleted. This way for every single requester in his session, the page will be created, reused, and once he is done, the page gets deleted. Thread level, in this case, what happens is the content of inside the page is reusable within a thread. First of all, what is a thread? Thread is nothing but a tab in the browser. So like if I just logged into Amazon, I placed an order. Okay, so you undergo a sequence of screens and finally you place an order. So this is one thread, you can say. In one thread you just placed an order, then you come back after an hour or something, again you just added some more items to the cart, and again you placed an order. So this is second thread. So you can just say like every single transaction as a thread, or nothing but every single tab in the browser is a thread. I'm just waiting for PRPC to load. Okay, so that is called as thread. Okay, so you have to decide based on your business requirement whether you want to choose node or requester or thread level. Again, you also have some certain restrictions when to choose what. Some options are not available at node level, something not available at requester. So you just have to decide based on your requirement and based on the capabilities and features available. You have to choose which one you want to configure for your requirement. Okay, now there's a disadvantage here. The disadvantage is data pages are only triggered for the first time. So it's like there is a drop down for displaying the countries. If I'm the first user, then the code gets triggered. That is like data page gets triggered, which in turn is going to call an activity or a SOAP service or a report definition and finally get the data and puts it on the data page. It will put it on the data page. Now this output you can say. Now the problem is after that, like like end users logged in, a lot of users logged in, and everybody is reusing the data page which was created by me, right? Now in between, if somebody updates the data in the database, that's a problem. Or if something gets updated in the external system, maybe you're using a SOAP service to get the data, something got updated in the external system, you will not receive the fresh copy of data. The reason is data page is triggered only for the first time. After that it will not be triggered. Okay, so you don't get a fresh copy of data. So early morning, maybe at 6 o'clock, the first user logged in. A page was created for countries, states, and cities on the clipboard. Now all the users throughout the day, whoever logged in, are just reusing the page. But in between, in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, few records were added in the countries table. Now that's not reflecting. So how can you fix it? We have something called as refresh strategy. Refresh strategy. What happens in refresh strategy? You can reload your data pages. So you can reload it. How do you reload it? So in refresh strategy, you can use reuse once per interaction. Means in one interaction, it's going to it's going to hit the DB and get a fresh copy of data for you. Then you can give a timer. So you can give some time, like you can give days, months, hours and seconds. Suppose if you say like 5 hours, after 5 hours the page will be removed and a fresh copy of the page will be created. Again, there's a calculation that you need to know here. Suppose the first user, okay, the first user logged at just say for example 1 p.m. Okay, now the expiry time is like 5 hours, right? So after 5 hours, so you can say at 5 o'clock, at 5 p.m. now the page will be flushed. So the page is deleted. Now the page will not be created again immediately. Only when the next user tries to access the page will be created. So at 5 p.m. the page was flushed. Now the next user logged in at 8 p.m. So till 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. the page is not existing on the clipboard. At 8 p.m. when the user logged in and he was trying to access those drop downs or whichever piece of code which is holding the data page, then the page is recreated and reloaded with a fresh copy of data. Okay, that's how this timer works. Same is the case with other refresh strategies. Then you can put a when rule. When the when rule is true or false, then flush the page. That way you can do the refresh strategy. So in 3 different ways you can refresh your page, either using reuse once per interaction, like every time you interact with the page, a fresh copy of data is brought, timer, and a when rule. And also sometimes like you just made a code change and you want that to you just added some records in the DP and I want that to come into effect immediately. I don't want to wait because I gave a timer 5 hours and there are like 3 or 4 hours left over. So you don't want to wait till the 4 hours time is completed and then the fresh data. I want to do it immediately. In that case you can also manually flush the pages. You can do it. Okay, there's a way to do it in the data pages. I'll show you how can you do it. So manually you can go and you can flush the page. And also using page remove method in the activity, you can remove it. Although it is not suggested, you can still remove the pages using page remove method. You can do it. Technically you can delete it. Okay, now let's create a data page and see how it's going to work. So how do you create a data page? Very simple. Just right click on the class and say create data model data page. Let's do it. Create data model data page. Now look at this. You always have a prefix d underscore. By default, Pega gives you. I'm doing this to fetch countries from my DB table. So I just call it as get countries. You can write get countries, retrieve countries, whatever it is. You can just give and look at the new name. It's d underscore get countries. Okay. Create and open. I have already done this, so I'll just refer to the one which I have already created. Okay. Now inside the data page, it'll ask you what is the type of the page or a page list. So you can select whichever option you want to, like page or a page list based on your requirement. It's a list because I'm going to get a bulk record. So I just give it as list and whichever class data you're going to place it. So that class, and then is it read-only or editable or savable? So read-only, as the name itself indicates, it's a read-only page. So no editings are possible on the page. Editable, self-explanatory, you can edit the pages. And one important thing is, if it's an editable page, Okay. So based on your requirement, you have to choose whether it is read-only or editable or savable. Savable means the low versions of Pega, these data pages were only used to retrieve the data. They were never used to insert or update the data. Now this is a new feature that has come up. You can also use it to insert data into the DB. Okay. Now one important thing you need to know is if it is marked as editable, you will not see the data pages under the data page category on Clipboard. So data pages have a special category on the Clipboard. You don't find them with the regular Clipboard pages. So this is user pages, and you have a special category called as data pages, under which you have thread, request or node. Based on that, you can choose your page like this, under which scope it comes. Okay. Now, in case if the page is marked as editable, then it will not be found under data pages. It will be under user pages. Look at this. There are few data pages here, D underscore, D underscore. There are many data pages here. Why are they lying here? Because they are editable. If it's editable, they are not found under the data page category. They are found under the user page category. This is very important from interview point of view. Just remember this. Okay. Now, it's the time to select the scope. So based on your requirement, you have to choose whether it's node, request or thread. As you know, get countries is something common for everyone, right? You can go ahead and choose node level, but there's a problem here. When you say node level, okay, under the load management, you only have one refresh strategy. 1 second, this didn't load properly. Moment, let's refresh it. Out of the 3 refresh strategies available, only one refresh strategy will be found if you have chosen it as a node level data page. So you will see only timer, the when rule and the reuse once per interaction will not be found. Let's change it to node. It's not loading properly, but you can just see later. Here you will find only timer. Whereas if it is thread or requester, you will see all 3. Reload once per interaction, when rule and timer. For node level, you will see only timer. Do remember this. This is very important. Okay. So the problem is now, I can't go for a node level data page. The problem is uh, whenever the user changes country, I want the states and the states cities to be changing frequently. Okay. Okay. Countries you can give it node level, but for states and cities I can't give node level because what happens at node level is you don't have a refresh strategy. So if the first user gave the country as India and all the states of India got populated, now the second user came and gave the country as US, still the states of India will populate. The states of US will not populate because you don't have a refresh strategy to refresh for every interaction. So every time the country changes, you want the state to be changed. Okay. So that is not available at node level. So I can't use node level for states and cities, right? So you have certain restrictions when you go with node level. So be careful when we use it. So that is the reason I just started giving thread and request level for all my data pages, countries, states, cities, and everything. So I just gave it as thread or requester. Anything is okay. Better to go with requester. At least it's reusable for all the work objects you create within your session. So like you can see, like this is CL-14. Now go ahead and create another one, CL-15. So for every single work object you create, this data page will be reusable. Okay. Now you can give thread or requester, but not node level. As I told you, we have some issues with it. But for countries, you can go with node level, but states and cities, no, because you don't have the reload once per interaction. Let's refresh strategy. And if you want to manually flush a place, you can flush it from your clear data page. Now the next thing is write down an activity or use a report definition to fetch the data and populate the data on the data page. Now you have multiple sources. It can be a connector, which means you want to connect to an external system using a SOAP or REST or whatever it is. You can use the data transform, a report definition, activity, RPA, there are various things. So let's choose activity. And the most important thing is, if the structure is a list, activity should always be created in code-pega-list class. So you cannot create it in the classes, in your corresponding classes, like in your work class or in your data class. You can't put them. You have to put them in code-pega-list class. There's no choice. So just give a name of the activity here and click on open. You will see the new rule form to create the activity. Once you see the new rule form to create the activity, just give the name as get countries and click on create and open. I have already created it, so let me show you the code. You just give the name as get countries and click on create and open. Now you can write down your piece of code to get the data from the DB. Now, before we progress on this, look at this. I have created 3 tables in my database. One for countries, one for states, and one for cities. So for countries, I only have country as a column. Okay, so I have 4 countries. Then states have 2 columns, countries and state, like this. And then cities have 2 columns, state and city. Okay, now I want to fetch the data from this RDB tables. So in the activity, you have to use the RDB method list. Why list? Because you're pulling multiple records of data. Now this is asking you some inputs like what is a Connect SQL name, the access and the class where the Connect SQL role is created. Okay. Now first go ahead and create a Connect SQL role, then you can provide all this information. How do you create a Connect SQL rule? Right click on the class, integration connectors, Connect SQL. Give a name to it. Let me see what I have given here. So I just named it as get countries. So you can fill the same get countries. Which class? It's up to you. So I gave this class. Package, we usually provide the database name like Oracle, PGSQL, whatever it is. So here it is PGSQL. I give PGSQL. Create and open. Now these 3 are the ones that you have to pass here. Okay. Click on create and open. I have already done it. So I'll just open the one that I have created. Now where is the query? Always remember, if it is RDB list, the query is under browse. If it's RDB save, query is under save. RDB delete, RDB open. Okay. So as it is list, my query is under browse. Let's go to browse and have a look at the query. browse. Okay, so I just copy pasted the query from SQL. Okay, I mean like this one, just copy and paste it. The same thing, just make sure you don't give any semicolons at the ending. Okay, I said select star from data dash countries, order by country, ascending. That's it. Okay, it's simple query. Make sure it's in the browse tab because you're using list. Okay, and just fill the information, and the most important thing is don't forget to give the step page, because the output of this is what you want on data page, right? What's your data page name? D underscore get countries. Copy paste, or make sure you're giving the right spelling and the right case sensitivity. A slight change in the upper and lowercase letters, then it's considered as a different page. Okay, just copy paste the name and define it in pages and classes. Okay, done. That's it. Now save your changes. Now it's time to, one more thing, when you're dealing with data pages, activity, okay, activity with the data page, under the security tab, please make sure you give load data page. Okay, we spoke about the types of activity, right? So based on the rule from where it is being triggered, if it is triggered from a data page, make sure you mention this as load data page. If you don't specify this, this will not appear in the drop down here. Only when you specify that, it's going to appear here. Okay, so if you're not finding it in the list here, and it is lying in code Pega list class, then the issue is this one, you didn't make this change, so it's not displaying. Okay, now you're done, all set. The query is ready, the activity is done, your data page is ready. You can just save your changes and you can test it. So you can no need to give any refresh strategy because it's same for every user. If you're adding new countries, just go ahead and manually flush it. Okay, or if you want, give some timer. After the timer expires, the page is flushed. Okay, now you can just click on actions, run. Better turn on the tracer so that we get to know how things are working. So tracer is on. In the tracer settings, make sure you enable data pages. Only then you can see the data page in the tracer. And if you wish to know, also enable DB query. Now flush everything, run. So you can see this PX result count is 4, which means that I have 4 results. And I can look at the results here at the last. PX results 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 is India and 2 Singapore and so on. Okay. If you wish to see them on the clipboard, make sure you're checking under the data pages category. Which one? Thread or requester? I think it's requester. No. Then maybe I gave a thread. Yes. D underscore get countries. Expand. See, at top level page, you can only look at the query. Data is always inside on PX results. Here it is. Now, once you have the data, just plug in wherever you want. You want to use it in an activity, in a section, in a flow, wherever you want, in a data transform, wherever you want, you can use it. So my requirement is all about displaying a drop down, which means I want to use it in a section. Let's go back to the section. And you can also see it in the tracer like this. If you want to look at the SQL query, click on SQL here. Look at the query. If you want to look at the result count, look at the number here. Okay. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me open the section from here. It's taking some time. Okay, now let me open the section. This is the one. Okay, so I have a drop down. I just dragged and dropped a drop down. You can just take a drop down from the basic, drag and drop, and then open the settings. Just map a property to hold the data, like whatever the user has selected out in the drop down. So out of the list of countries you provide, the user selects one single country, right? That is stored in this property. Now, how about loading the drop down? So this is the place where you load the drop down at source. So you can load it using a property. You can use it using a data page, clipboard page, report definition, anything. So right now you have a data page. So I took data page and my data page name. You can just do a down arrow. You'll find it like this. Okay. And then which property? Why which property? Because on the page you have one or two property, one or multiple properties, right? One or more properties are there on the same page. So which one you want to display? I want to display country. Similarly, which one you want to store on the clipboard? Country. Sometimes in real time, people have a requirement that they display country to the user, the whole name, like United States of America, the whole name. And in the backend, they store the ISO 2 or ISO 3 format, like USA. Okay. If it is India, you display INDIA India. In the backend, you store only IND or IN. So different business requirements depends. Some you can also do that way. Something to display and something to store. Both need not be the same. That's it. You're done. Just say submit and you can test your changes. You can have a look at this. My drop down is displaying. Okay. So that's it. The basics of the data page. I'll make another video about parameterized data pages and key data pages and data page with SOAP integration and savable data pages.